Alright, so now let's implement our very first helper function, that is bootloader handle get version command. So before implementing this function, let's go through some flowcharts to understand how our bootloader code really behaves. Okay, so first, when we reset the microcontroller, the bootloader code actually runs and it does all these peripheral and clock initializations, like it initializes the hardware abstraction library, it initializes the GPIOs used, UARTs used, the CRC engine used, and the clock. So all these initializations will be done, and then it checks the status of the user button. So if the user button is not pressed, it goes to the function bootloader jump to user application, and it continues with the user application. And if the button is pressed during the reset, it goes to the bootloader UART read data, or you can also call it as read host command, whatever. Okay, and when it comes to bootloader UART read data, there we actually poll for the UART data, isn't it? So if you look at this function UART read data, it is actually trapped in the while one loop. So that's an infinite loop, isn't it? And here we first poll for the data, isn't it? To receive 1 byte, that is nothing but length of the command packet. So if that length byte is not received, then it continues to poll the UART to get that first byte. If length byte is received, then it reads length number of bytes, all right, that is other bytes of the command packet, and then that command will be decoded in the switch case, isn't it? And then handle function will be called. And when we go to the handle function, what we do, we first check the CRC of the received command packet, because that is really important. If the CRC is bad, then we send NAC to the host, and then we finish the handle function. That means we return from the handle function and we come back to the bootloader UART read data function again, and again we will start polling for the bytes from the host. So finish handle X command means returning from the individual handle function. So if the CRC is good, so we first send the ACK and then we obtain the reply. For example, if it is a get version command, then we obtain the version. If it is get chip identification number, then we obtain the chip identification number, and then we send the reply back to the host. And after that, we return from the handle X command, and then we again come back to the bootloader UART read data function. That means we poll for the UART data. So this is the flowchart used in this project implementation. So if you look at the code, when the command is decoded, we go to the respective handle function. Okay, so let's say we go to this handle function, and here we have to implement this one. In the handle function, this is a handle function, and here we have to first check for the CRC, and if it is good, you have to send ACK, then obtain the reply, and then send the reply. If the CRC is bad, then send NAC and return from this function, and you go back to the bootloader UART read data function. All right, great. So now let's implement this flowchart for every command handle function.